Oh, hi. I'm Sue West, Productivity and ADHD coach. I was on the phone. Sorry about that. Welcome back. Let me get this off, actually. Welcome back to the 9th annual ADHD Awareness Expo. I am really pleased to be here this year. I've been a participant many years watching the videos, and this year I get to do one for you, so I'm very excited about that. I want to make a mention of the online exhibit hall where you can sign up to get a virtual goodie bag with all kinds of good stuff from speakers and sponsors, which means that the value of watching the videos will last long beyond the 1 or 2 or 3 or 20 videos you watch. So take advantage of that. What to know about me? I'd like to keep this really quick because I want to get on to the meat of the tips that I want to give you today. So I noticed midlife that I had ADHD symptoms, and they were just driving me crazy, invading all parts of my life, of course. And so I saw an ADHD coach. I also saw a therapist to deal with some midlife transition stuff I was going through, lots of big changes. And I figured out effectively how to out-organize my own mind. And along with that came accepting what my mind was like, how it's wired differently, and eventually realizing that there's a lot of strengths in the way that I think. It may be different from other people, but I kind of enjoy that difference now, and I celebrate it. So it is possible, there is hope. So what to know about me officially, a lot of that is on my website, CoachSueWest.com. I'll mention 2 things that are relevant to my tips today. One is that I'm certified both as a coach and also a professional organizer specializing in ADHD. I went through the Coach Approach for Organizers program, which is accredited by the largest coaching credentialing organization in the world, and I took many of my ADHD credentials there, as well as at the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, which has organizers who specialize in chronic disorganization, ADHD, hoarding tendencies, and so forth. So that's kind of where I get my knowledge, along with personal, and I've been doing this since 2004. It's a second career for me, and I love it. So what I love doing is helping other people figure out how to organize their life. They come to me with very specific questions like you'll hear today. Most of it is how do I get out of my own way? How do I reach my potential? How do I out-organize my ADHD mind, whether they're diagnosed or not? We work with that either way. So that's really it for me. I'd really like to get to the tips if you don't mind. So one tip, I have 3 tips for you today, and I've got a couple of props here that I want to use. The topic is about phone calls and making the difficult ones that we all procrastinate on, that are sitting on our list, and we just cannot make ourselves get around to making them, right? The just do it issue, right? That never works for us. So what I want to talk about is 3 main tips today. One is I call momentum muscle. The second one I call squeeze the orange. And the third one I call scripting it. So when I talk about momentum muscles, the ADHD brain doesn't have as much motivation. It's more about activating, getting started is what most of my clients talk about. So we need some getting started strategies for these phone calls. And one of them is to realize that not all phone calls are alike. If you look at your list of phone calls, you probably have, maybe you have a doctor's appointment, maybe you have a vendor or a client you have to call with difficult news, maybe you have to call a sick friend, maybe you have to call your manager and set up a performance review, and you know it's maybe not going to be that great. So you also have ones like filling out the insurance paperwork after your car accident. We did that a couple of years ago when we got rear-ended, and it was painful, the paperwork. We were all safe, but the paperwork was painful. So what you hear there is there are some phone calls that are tedious because you have to fill out paperwork and details. And then there are other ones that are more emotional. You're nervous about what your client is going to say, what your boss is going to tell you about your performance, how the vendor is going to react. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So getting started can be things like choose the one that just feels like the low-hanging fruit. This is an American saying, and it's as if you went into an apple orchard or an orange grove, and you see the apples and the oranges that are on the lowest branches are the ones that are always the easiest to pick. Otherwise, you'd have to go get your ladder, get your equipment, climb to the top of the tree on the ladder, and pick it all. So low-hanging fruit is what's the easiest one to do. Because what you're trying to do is, as I call it, get some gas in the car, get some momentum going, get some energy behind doing some of these. So one way that clients do it is they choose the easiest ones. They will choose a time of day, because repetitive actions seem to work pretty well. It almost makes it like you don't even have to think about making the phone calls. So prospect phone calls, for example. Every day, 9 o'clock, 15 minutes. No question. It's not a decision. That's the key thing there. Another way people will do it is, if it's a very difficult one, maybe the first step is simply looking up the phone number and having it ready when you're ready. And maybe that's all you do today, and then tomorrow you make the phone call. There's something about having the phone number ready, and it's part of that flow thing, I think. Some people might want to tell somebody so they're accountable to them. So some people will use a coach. You could use, if you're in an office, you can use your assistant or another salesperson or whatever your role is, somebody you trust. I'm going to call so-and-so today. Can you stop by 4 o'clock? And if I haven't done it, sit with me until I make that phone call. And that's another way to use an accountability partner, is to say it or to have them sit with you. Another way is to change the scenery. So I work out of my house. If I have a difficult phone call and it's the summertime, I go out on the porch. I sit in my glider. It makes me very calm. I might bring out some notes, which I'll talk about later, and I change the scenery. If you're in an office, it could be that you go into a conference room, which has none of your other stuff on your desk that's going to distract you, right? So you're changing the scenery to make the environment easier for you. So those are some ways to get started. The last one I would say is to make a deal with yourself. If you've really procrastinated so long, then make a deal with yourself. Write the phone call you have to make on a Post-it note and put it on your coffee pot the next morning if you work out of the house or you bring coffee to work or whatever you drink, so that you see it first thing. Maybe you even make that phone call in the car, hands-free mute. But it's about making a deal with yourself and following through on the deal. So that's a great way to do it. Squeeze the orange is my second tip. So that's like, I try to find an orange and I don't have any in my house right now. So I have my dog's squeezy toy, which is orange. So squeeze the orange is about putting your phone call between two things. In the old days, we used to call it sandwiching. And I think the ADHD-friendly way to say it is squeeze, because what do we like? Deadlines, pressure, a little bit of adrenaline, right? So it's a squeeze. So the idea behind this is, if you know that you hate being early to places, and so you're always running in at the last minute, go ahead and be early, but bring your phone calls and squeeze them in before the appointment. Right? It's a gift when you have a couple of extra minutes and you can start your appointment calmly instead of frantic. If you really can't be early, then other ways to squeeze the orange would be you're meeting a friend for lunch and you set your multiple alarms and reminders to give yourself 5 extra minutes to make one phone call. Just one. Choose the easiest one and squeeze it in between the 5 minutes and then when you need to meet your friend. So in that last 5 minutes, you're going to just make that your deadline and make your phone call. So that's what I mean by squeeze the orange, squeeze it in between things. This means that you need to know yourself really well, because what you don't want to do is say, I'm going to squeeze this in before I leave at the end of the day. If you're always late going home, then don't do this strategy. Use one of the other ones. That's why I'm giving you 3. So it's really important you understand yourself on all of these, of course. The last one I call script it, and I don't necessarily mean to write it out. The two ways my clients tend to do it, more and more people are recording it like on their phone. So if you have a difficult phone call you have to make to your boss, to your vendor who's not performing, to a, maybe not a sick friend, maybe a sick friend if you're nervous about talking to them and aren't sure what to talk to them about. So what you want to do there is not just pick up the phone call and make the phone call. You want to think about it ahead of time. So these are the emotional ones I talked about. Think about it ahead of time. Type out, write out, handwrite what it is you want to say. Say it out loud. How does it sound? How does it feel to you? Practice it a couple of times, like I've practiced this video, so that you're more comfortable making that phone call. Another way to do it rather than handwriting, and this is becoming more and more common, is record yourself, right? So use your phone and record what you want to say and then listen to it, because you're trying to do two things here really. One is figure out what you are going to say, and then listen to the recording again and try to understand how is this going to come across to the other person, and try to anticipate some of their reactions. Don't be a perfectionist about it, because that'll delay your making the phone call, but do listen to it. The other way that the recording helps is the recording or the writing, it seems to take away some of the emotion for many people, and it can make it a more factual or business-like type of phone call if it's a business one. If you're calling your friend who's sick and you're not sure what to say and you're nervous and so forth, then what you're looking for is compassion. So when you listen to yourself and what you're saying, if it's not compassionate enough, then keep writing and keep recording and keep practicing until it sounds the way that you want it to. So that's the scripting it part. So I've had 3 suggestions for you today: momentum muscle, squeeze the orange, and scripting it. And if you need other examples, I've got a blog, I've got, I don't have videos on this topic because I saved it for the ADHD Awareness Expo, but I have blogs on my website, CoachSueWest.com, with all kinds of very specific tips like these. Last thing I want to mention is how to contact me, and then I'll have a reminder for you again about the virtual goodie bag. So if you'd like to contact me, my website is CoachSueWest.com. I have a contact me form, which puts the responsibility on me to follow up with you. That's good. If you want to text me right now, my phone number is 603-765-9267. 603-765-9267 is my cell. My email is sue@CoachSueWest.com. And like most, I offer a no-charge introductory call for 20 minutes. I guarantee you'll walk away with at least one idea. And if you do call, I guarantee that you will receive a phone call or an email or a text back from me no later than 24 hours a day, except for weekends. I reserve those for me, and I hope you do too. Last reminder is, again, the exhibit hall. Sign up for the virtual goodie bag from the ADHD Awareness Expo, with all kinds of great information from speakers and sponsors, because we want you to use this information long after you've listened to these videos. So thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll try some of these: momentum muscle, squeeze the orange, or script it, and let me know how it goes. Thank you. Sue West, Productivity and ADHD Coach, CoachSueWest.com. Bye now.